I think this can be very good for the game. I know a lot of people do them for leveling. There's definitely some cosmetics involved. And I am of the mindset of we should always have a time walking event. Or at least definitely have it every other week. Because the more expansions they add to the time walking pool, the longer it takes for you to get the time walking that you actually want. So let's first see what this, because I haven't read it. Like, I kind of know what the story is about, but I don't know the details of it, and that's going to be interesting. The Bronze Dragonflight has discovered growing disturbances in the timeways, with several rapidly intersecting our own. Okay. Beginning the week of March 28th, so this is next week, players can time walk through a previous expansion each week for 6 consecutive weeks. This grand tour through World of Warcraft's past will start with Cataclysm and end with Wrath of the Lich King. I'm sure it's a weird way to do it, but also for a limited time, the time walking quest in Valdrakken from Khazra will offer an increased reward, a heroic level cache of the vault treasures with items leveled from 402 to 411. The reward upgrade is only available for this special time walk event, aka the 6th week, I would imagine. After Turbulent Time Walking has run its course, the reward returns to level 389 cache of the vault treasures. Alright, so far, all of the time walking events, do 4 dungeons in that time walking, rewarded you with normal raid gear in the vault from the current raid tier. While when we had do 4 mythic dungeons in Dragonflight or, you know, Shadowlands or BFA respectively, it used to be heroic level gear in the reward. And it was just weird, like, why is it sometimes normal? Why is it sometimes heroic? Now it's all heroic. Okay, this, first of all, is good in terms of, like, overall reward. Just keep it consistent. I think it's fine. The second bit of it is that it's for 6 consecutive weeks, so supposedly we will have this 6 times. And first of all, that's actually really good because this tackles a bunch of stuff. We will have quite a bit of time until 10.1 while we do the 10.07 stuff. Obviously, 10.07 comes with a Forbidden Reach. Torghast, not really Torghast thing in Forbidden Reach. More rares, more daily content, more story, which is good for a 10.07 patch, exceptionally good, but also still have more content to do because, you know, once you do that, there's nothing else to do. So reoccurring content, replayable content in terms of, you know, engaging with PV, that's great. I would imagine that the raids will come as well alongside these, like, you know, Black Temple for the Burning Crusade week, what is it, Ulduar for Wrath. But I do believe this might be a test for the content as well. Once there's slightly content drop, they can do this, and they can essentially just run these events in parallel with anything else that they would have, right? We have the Do World Quest events, we have the pet battle event, the PvP event, so on and so forth. And I think those should still go on a cycle, but I think the time walking should be pretty much up all the time. I don't necessarily see why that would be a problem, because you might think like, okay, well, you'll get 1 guaranteed heroic loot every week from the time walking, but I don't know why that's an issue, because it's just 1 piece. The vault gives you another piece, and then you just loot whatever you loot. And I think that's fine, considering that the game progress should be accelerated in a way that if you do play your alts, you do have ways to get gear. And I think more and more, even though we know that Dragonflight is a very alt-friendly expansion, I do believe that they should keep capitalizing on this and slightly turn WoW into even more alt-friendly content, where, because it's so fun, right? I think for the longest time, they've tried to make progress and rewards feel very, very, well, rewarding rather, but to feel justified for the people that have put in the effort, right? It takes effort to raid heroic, right? It takes effort to get heroic raz to get down, right? So not everybody should have access to loot that they cannot usually do by doing the actual content. So having access to the loot outside of it was always an argument. It's like, but do we really want to trivialize loot so just people get flooded and then they probably stop playing the game or whatever? But I think we're past that, and I think we are at a point where a lot more people are playing alts. And even if they're not playing alts, we've had this discussion before, gearing up your character a lot quicker than what we used to do in the past isn't necessarily a bad thing, because there's a lot of content now in modern WoW where it's fun to blast with a lot of gear. Because you might, on one hand, you might say, oh, but if we gear up really quick, there's no reason to play the game and we'll just stop. And I'm sure there's a couple of people that do feel that way. But there's probably more people that are thinking like, oh my god, now that I have gear, I can actually do amazing damage, amazing healing, amazing tanking. Whether that is through the raid or whether that is through Mythic Plus, it's clear that the content is fun. Not to mention, classes are fun. Even specs like survival that I constantly trash in these videos is a fun spec to do with a lot of gear. I like to do big damage. I'm not stopping once I get max gear. That's actually when probably a bunch of people start to really enjoy the end game, when they know that, okay, now I can actually slap and push content. The content can be pushed once you have max gear. And even if that stops being the case, like, okay, I'm bored, I leveled it, you can play more alts and more characters or more specs. And after the redesign of the talent system, I believe that a lot more specs are more interesting to play. They're slightly different, more fleshed out, more in-depth, and more fun than they have ever been. So I think that's a big way to capitalize on the current content for WoW, to incentivize people to play alts. So I think this is fine. I think this can be very good for the game. The 6 weeks time walking. When does this land though? So March the 6th all the way to May the 2nd. Quite a bit away from the 10.1 release. So I'm guessing this is also a way to keep people hooked until 10.1 and Season 2 start, which is not a bad way. And obviously we still have content and reworks and stuff to go through. So I think this is a good thing.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classical retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.